Hello everyone, Oli here, and this is my review of The Dominators, the first story of the sixth season of classic Doctor Who, starring Patrick Troughton as the second Doctor. The Dominators is the 44th story overall, it's 5 episodes long, and it's written by Norman Ashby. So we've now reached the final season of the 1960s and the final season for Patrick Troughton, as he intended to only do 3 seasons. 3 years to be precise. And the good news is, of all 7 stories of season 6, only two stories that have incomplete episodes, which are the Invasion, which only has episodes 1 and 4 missing, and Space Pirates, which is the last badly affected missing episode and the last missing episode for Doctor Who. Okay, so after that story, every episode exists. So the plot of the Dominators is as follows: Dolcus, planet of harmony and enlightenment, home to the peaceful Dulcians, an oasis of calm in the cosmos, and completely defenseless. The Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe arrive to find Dolcus enslaved by the cruel Dominators and their deadly robotic servants, the Quarks. The pacifist Dulcians not for no resistance. Can the Doctor save a people who are willing collaborators in their own destruction? So that's the plot of the Dominators. Dominators is a story that's disliked by many Whovians. I can understand why, but honestly, I don't think the Dominators is as bad as it's made out to be, in my opinion. But there are some faults in this story, but it's still not as bad as it's usually made out to be honest. So the production values in this story were okay. The plot was decent. The direction by Maurice Barry was decent as well. Not the best story he's directed. That honor goes to Tomb of the Cybermen, to be honest. The script was alright. Despite production issues, it actually caused the writers, the actual writers, Mervyn Heemsman and Henry Lincoln, the makers of the Yeti, they didn't really like the story and they requested for their names to be removed from the credits. And this story is a bit inconsistent in terms of pacing, but it picks up towards the end. There was also an anti-pacifist message, which was very crystal clear, and they portrayed the Dulcian Council to be rather useless because of their pacifism. It was a good message, but at the same time, it was a bit of a bad message as well, because I was actually reading when I was doing some research for this story, and around the time the Dominators actually aired, the anti-pacifism message actually didn't really sit well with some people, because I think there were protests in Chicago and all that, and I think I had to do more. I'm not even quite sure if I have. I probably need to do a bit more further research than that, but it does actually paint pacifism as a bad thing, and especially when the Dominators and the Quarks will enter the council. I think the Dawsons actually offered to help the Dominators, but one of them ended up getting killed, and it does pretty much show pacifism in a bad light. And I mean, I understand pacifism is a good thing and it's a bit bad as well, but in certain circumstances, being pacifist is actually quite bad. So the sonic screwdriver makes a return, and I like how it's established that it's not just a screwdriver to just open locks and stuff. The Doctor actually uses the sonic screwdriver as some sort of torch, so he can actually burn through the hole, so Jamie can actually get the bomb that the Dominators were using, I think. Yeah. And I like the ending of the Dominators. I liked how when the volcano erupts on the island of Death, with Jamie pretty much urging the Doctor to use the TARDIS and get the hell out of there, because the Doctor actually thought the TARDIS wasn't on the island, even though they actually were. And this actually leads into the next story, the Mind Robber. So yeah, it was alright. So now onto the acting. Patrick Troughton actually did his best, but he didn't really care for much of this story, and you can actually tell from his performance he was actually overreacting just for the hell of it. An example was when he and Jamie were with the Dominators, and then the Doctor realized that the Dominators actually wanted smart people to work, and the Doctor told Jamie, "Can you act dumb?" And the way the Doctor just overacting, Troughton's overacting, was pretty hilarious as well, to be honest. Jamie does well in this story. I mean, he actually does most of the heavy lifting when he and Collier were pretty much destroying Quarks with borders, and that was a pretty cool scene. And I'd say Fraser Hines did his best as well. Zoe was alright. She doesn't actually do much. She's pretty much thrown into the action. I mean, it is a very plot-driven story, and I do wish that there was a moment of Zoe just trying to at least adjust to her surroundings, even though Zoe is not the sort of person who just finds some time to adjust, because she thinks logically instead of just personally, and it would have been nice for her to at least explore her surroundings and just maybe even have like a Tomb of the Cybermen moment that the Doctor had with Victoria. Maybe the Doctor had it with having the story of Zoe checking up on her and seeing how she is and all that, because considering the fact that the Doctor did show her some gnarly stuff with the Daleks in the Wheel in Space, but yeah, that to be honest, it was. But I like, but obviously, Zoe is very different to Victoria, as I mentioned in the Wheel in Space. I liked how when her and Collie were put to work by the Dominators, Zoe was pretty much standing up to the Quarks, saying the Quarks and the Dominators, and it was quite a good moment as well. And I think that was probably probably Zoe's defining moments. So Wendy Padbury does a good job also. Now onto the side characters. To be honest, there was a lot of them I didn't really care for, and they were quite forgettable. I mean, all of them except Collie. He's pretty much the main character, the main side character, because he's the son of the leader of the Dorsians, Senex. He was pretty much he was pretty Collie was pretty much a tour guide, like showing young people with the island of death, and that's how he came onto Dorcas and got involved with everyone. I really liked his character. He does assist the Doctor in fighting the Dominators, and that was pretty cool. But to be honest, I get the impression that Collie was meant to have been younger. I mean, the actor Arthur Cox, I mean, I think he was in his mid-30s, but I have a feeling that he was written as a younger-ish character, and no disrespect intended to Arthur Cox, but I don't really think a balding young man is actually gives the impression that he's a young man, to be honest. But it would have been more effective if Collier was played by a younger-ish actor, to be honest. So now on to the villains. We have Rago and Toba the Dominators. They were alright villains, even though there are times I found them dull as hell. Brutal, yes, but they really but both of them pretty much spoke on the same tone of voice, and that was pretty annoying and a bit boring as well. And there was tension between the two Dominators, Rago and Toba, I think, towards the end, and I think it was Toba. It was Toba. He didn't really like what Rago was doing, and I would have liked it if it would have been somewhat better if Rago actually turned on Toba and actually helped the Doctor defeat his other colleague, and maybe help the Dosians out in some way. I mean, yeah, to be honest. And we also have the robotic servants, the Quarks. They were okay, but I have a feeling they are pretty much written as a way to at least replace the Daleks or make them as good as the Daleks, but it really did not work at all, because one, they were just dead. They didn't really do much other than just kill people, and two, I found them very annoying with their fucking beeping and all that, and the design, it looked odd because it did look like children in cardboard boxes. Children or short people put in cardboard boxes, and their arms were pretty much like that. They were like pretty much walking like that, and then whenever they wanted to shoot, they were like this or like this. It's as if they actually wanted a hug, which I found quite funny. But to be honest, they were just there to serve Rago and Toba and kill people, weren't they? So now on to the photo I have of the Dominators. As I mentioned before, the pacing was very inconsistent, and I found the first two episodes extremely dull. It does pick up a bit, but then I think it picks up around episode 3ish, then drops a little bit in episode 4, comes back around episode 4, and then episode 5 is when the story actually picks up a bit. But it actually but this story feels to deliver big, and I also felt there was too much dialogue and there was not much that was really happening, and I felt the conclusion was a bit rushed, and I think It was actually intended to have been a six-parter, but if the Dominators was a six-parter, I think it would have been somewhat better, to be honest. Yes, so, but because it would have probably cleaned up some parts and fleshed some bits out. Because I think the rescue of Jamie and with the rescue the doctor when the Doctor rescued Jamie and Zoe, I think that was a bit quick, to be honest. So in my opinion, the Dominators is a good start to the sixth season, but there are too many things going at the same time. But at the same time, not many things are happening because they're just pretty much talking too much. And the story was way too plot driven. If it was like a character piece or something, maybe if it was a bit of little bits of both, and if it was a six-parter, it would have been a lot better. And I give the story a 6 out of 10. And if the Dominators was a six-parter and actually cleaned up some bits and pieces, it probably would have been at least an 8, or at least going on to a 9 if it was done really well. So that's it for the Dominators. My next review will be The Mind Robber, a marvelous story, one of my favorites from the Charlton era. Thank you for watching the Dominators review. Please let me know what you thought of this story and this review, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Until then, see you later.